Are there certain types of material which you find either impossible or more difficult to repair?
We can repair and qualified for all types of cast iron material, including flake irons and all grades of SG. However, flake irons can be more troublesome. Depending on the manufacturer, they do put additives into the material, which can be more of a problem for us to overcome.
Because you try and match the material.
That's correct.
To the original material.
That's absolutely correct. We always analyse the material. We determine exactly the chemical analysis, and then we manufacture rods to simulate the same condition. But in terms of flake iron, some of the additives are not easy to replicate, and moreover, that they're not particularly well. When you weld them, they don't tend to take very easily, and the weld interface can be poor.
I noticed you used the word welding, but would it perhaps be better to describe it more as a fusion process?
Absolutely. We refer to it as a welding process simply because it's the only way we can describe the process of repair of cast iron. We can't call it what it is because it doesn't mean anything. But it is a fusion process. It's actually a controlled recasting process,
right?
Where we melt the base material into molten pool, add the same chemical analysis for filler rod, which I've just described, and then layer by layer regenerate the area. So it is a full fusion process as opposed to a welding process. Yes.
And if you weld cast iron in a normal TIG manner, you find that the material that's welded on will pull away from the cast.
It'll always be inferior. Any cold repair or any dissimilar material applied to cast iron will always be inferior. The weld interface is always the problem area. Because you have a dissimilar material trying to attach itself to another material. Also, you get hard spots through cold welding, through both processes you mentioned, which will lead to early failure and fractures. And this is where welding of cast iron has had its poor reputation because of the bodged repairs or the on-site repairs that are carried out in a cold way.
So when it's repaired by this fusion process that you use, you are effectively restoring the material to its original condition.
That's correct, yes.
And
yes.
Are there any time limitations? Are there a maximum number of times that you can reheat the head?
With certain types of irons, yes. We mentioned flake irons earlier on, that they have a lower tolerance of multiple preheats or multiple repair sequences. SG, the more modern irons that we see in all the three manufacturers, Wärtsilä, MAK and MAN, the repair can be performed many times. There are no real limits as to how far you can take the repairs or how many times you carry out the repairs. The material is good quality.
And you're rebuilding the material to its original dimensions so that the pockets, the valve seat pockets, are rebuilt to the original dimension, and therefore you give a complete life again to the head.
Correct, yes. If there are any, in addition to that, if there are any undersized dimensions, for example overall thicknesses which have been worn or machined over the years, we can also restore those back to original size too. Typically these dimensions are determined at our inspection stage. We always measure the head dimensionally. That includes all the critical dimensions, and if we determine that a dimension is below or close to minimum tolerance, then that's included in the reconditioning program.
Right.
Yeah.
When you take in the head, you do an initial inspection. Presumably you are pressure testing it to see where the cracks are and analysing the head before carrying out work.
That's correct. A part of our incoming procedure is to determine the repair feasibility and also determine the cost based on what we find. We carry out a full hydraulic test, 10 bar for an hour. We crack test the entire head. In addition to that, there's the visual inspection for erosion, corrosion and so on. And all these items are documented in our inspection report. At that point we can decide on a fixed figure for the reconditioning, and that's submitted to the customer for approval.
Right.